Hey guys, what's up? So today we're going to check out some more cheap pedals that don't suck. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so a couple weeks ago I did a video where I featured a bunch of Donner Embark series pedals, those little white pedals that are built like tanks and they sound pretty great. So Donner reached back out to me and said, hey, we got these other line of mini pedals that we think are pretty good. What do you think? And I was like, well, let me look. And so I saw these two and I thought they were a pretty good matched pair. And I thought they hung together in terms of style and just kind of their functionality. And the first up we have is the Donner Verb Square. See if I can focus in on that. And what this is a reverb pedal with 7 different reverb modes. It's got your standard, decay time. It's got your effects level, and it's got a little mini thing up here that kind of allows you to either brighten or darken the tone of the reverb. But there's 7 different reverbs here. You got your standard spring and plate reverbs going on. There's a room reverb. There's a church reverb, hall reverb. There's also something called studio, and then something called mod, which has its own modulation, almost like a chorus effect. So we'll get into that. But the other pedal that I saw that I was like, well, I think they would complement each other pretty well in terms of kind of how they look and what they're called. So we have the Verb Square. Now we have the Harmonic Square, and this is a octave detune pedal that allows you to either raise your tone of your guitar up 1 octave, up 2 octaves, down 1 octave, down 2 octaves, blend in your dry signal with that wet octave signal. But there's also 5 additional settings where you can detune your guitar. And let me see if I can get that to focus. There it goes. You can detune your guitar by, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 7 full steps. And you can go either direction, sharp or flat. And there's also a setting in the middle here on this little toggle that allows you to just slightly detune your guitar by just cents. Going either sharp or flat to give you kind of a modulated kind of wonky effect, and we'll get into what that sounds like too. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and plug these in and demonstrate what they do. Alright, so I got these pedals hooked up into this PV3120. I'm on the clean channel. I'm mainly going to be sticking with clean channel on this, but I will jump over to the high gain channel and kind of demonstrate the octave pedal and kind of how that can be kind of cool. Beyond that, what I got going on today is this Donner DST 550 that they sent me. I did a review on this a few weeks back. I currently have a Seymour Duncan 78 in the bridge and a Mini 59 in the neck. Have to be fancy. But overall, here's my clean tone running through this amp. That's on the bridge pickup, so I'm going to engage first the Verb Square here, and I'm going to go all the way over to just the room reverb. I'm going to keep the level about maybe 10 o'clock, decay up in the middle, tone up in the middle, and see what kind of effect we get here. It's a very short slap back. In fact, I could probably put the decay up quite a bit, maybe increase that level a bit. That's cool because what that is right there is a standard, just small kind of room, maybe, just a small space basically is what you're getting there. Very short, and it kind of dives off real quick. If I turn the effect level up more, decay down, you might even get more of like a bathroom effect. Pretty good. If I roll over to the hall, it's going to be a lot bigger of a space. Yeah, you get a lot more of that modulation, and that decay and how it kind of drops off is a bit less natural sounding. Turn the effect level down. I'm gonna keep the decay up a bit. That's not bad. I think with a hull, I might want a little bit more of a roll off of that slat back to be a little bit less abrupt. It's still pretty abrupt. Effect level. Typically, the effect level to me, what it does is it kind of gives you the sense of how close you are to the actual source of the audio. I'm not the biggest fan of that particular style of hall reverb. I think if I were to lower it down a bit, it's pretty short. I think when you go to the church setting, though, that's a little bit longer. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the decay up just a bit. That's a little bit better. Hall in church, probably my least favorite settings on this particular pedal. I think once you get over to the spring and the plate, you can kind of do a lot of the same kind of tonal kind of space shaping, especially with the spring. The spring reverb is more of like that, classic Fendery spring reverb. I'm gonna keep the effect level down, decay kind of moderate there. Actually, I could turn the decay up quite a bit. Yeah, I do like the spring reverb on here quite a bit more. In fact, it kind of has almost like a natural kind of washy sound going on. Now, normally I would run a reverb probably in the loop of an amp. I have it in front here just for simplicity's sake. In the loop of an amp, you would definitely have a bit more control over your EQ before it hits the actual pedal. Doing it this way, you do have to contend with the fact that your reverb is being EQ'd by your preamp. If I can kind of darken the tone a little bit, maybe turn the effect level down, but keep the decay up a bit. I do kind of like having a bit more of a tail, though. I'm gonna move over to the plate reverb. The plate's one of my favorites because it definitely has the biggest space, the biggest room. Decay I'm gonna keep down, but I'm gonna keep the effect level up. With a neck pickup, you're getting a bit more roundness out of that. You go to like a parallel split. Probably one of my favorite tones. Decay, effect level down. And a little bit more. That's about how I typically run my reverbs. I like to have the effect level kind of down. I like to have more of that like dry upfront presence of the amp, and then I like the reverb to kind of be an afterthought a little bit. Going over to the studio. It's like having the plate just with a bit more of a smaller kind of space feel. Just a little bit of room. And then if you go over to the mod, which has got a modulation to it, and that modulation will come in more with the effect level. You can control the amount of reverb with that decay. Overall, pretty cool, pretty good texture. So if you were to put this in the loop, what you could do is you could run it to kind of give some space to like a lead, a tone, add some distortion. You definitely don't want to run your reverb into a high gain channel, because it just becomes a noisy mess. I'm gonna leave that there, and then I'm gonna move over to the harmonic square to get some kind of fat, octavey detune tones going. Okay, so on the harmonic square, what I got going on is the single octave, and I'm going down an octave. I have my wet signal in the middle, and I have my dry all the way up, so it's going to be a blend of an octave below and my standard tone. Now, playing chords when you have a whole lot of octave kind of emulation or some sort of, doubling of notes, it gets pretty muddy. I would say stick to about 2 notes max. Start to add more notes. You can play them individually. You can do kind of arpeggios. But once you hit that full chord, little weird. And that's the same no matter what you do. If you go down 2 octaves, it even gets a little even more weird. Even 2 notes gets a little bit hard to handle. I find doing the whole octave below thing to be much more amenable towards adding just a little bit of low-end beef to your riff, especially if you're doing single note stuff. If you go up to the sharp setting, you're doing octaves, above, and that can get pretty cool for lead stuff. Although 2 octaves is a bit much, let's go back to 1 octave. Now, doing the octave above definitely handles chords better. You get kind of that organ effect. If you go completely wet, no dry, you're going to get just that octave above. And the latency on that tracking is not too bad. If you go 2 octaves above, almost ear piercing. Go an octave below. Almost sounds like a bass guitar. Now the other thing you can do is you can basically detune the guitar by 2 whole steps. Or 3, 4, 5, or 7. Now if you add in back the dry, what you're going to get are some pretty interesting harmonies. 7 whole steps below or 7 whole steps above. Definitely be careful with chords when you're detuning by just whole steps, because the keys don't match up. I'm not going to get into chord theory, but you start to play certain notes in a chord, even, major thirds, and they start to get kind of wonky. but it can add some pretty cool effects, especially to lead stuff. And if you have like specific chords where you know going up 5 whole steps won't be a problem, or going down 5 whole steps won't be a problem, you know, you can deal with that. The other function here is this detune function. Now, when you're in the middle on plus or minus 5, you're basically at, you know, the same note. Although it does sound like it's kind of doubling just with the same note. But as you go to the left, you're going to detune it downward. And it's going to mix in a little bit of, you know, that detune thing. You're going to get kind of a modulation effect. Very chorusy. And as you keep going to the left, it's going to get more intense. And then all the way to the left, pretty wonky. Very detuned, almost like, you know, way up there on the modulation scale. Same thing going all the way to the right. It's going to go up in pitch. But it's going to have the same effect. Kind of a cool thing if you just want kind of like a makeshift chorus pedal. That you can kind of mix the wet and dry signals in. It can get pretty intense. So now I'm going to turn on some drive, going over to the crunch channel on here, and I'm going to go back to the octave. And this is kind of where what I'd really like to do with this pedal is get it to where I can have just a little bit of a lower tone built in, so I can do some kind of like Muse style riffing, or Arctic Monkeys or Black Keys style stuff. Turn that wet signal up a little bit more to get more of that effect. And maybe even more wet. Yeah, I really do like that effect. Going down 2 octaves is a bit much though. Almost inaudible. And if I were to take the dry all the way out and turn the wet all the way up, it just gets ridiculous. But going up to 1 octave. Turn on an overdrive. You can get some pretty gnarly tones going that way. I prefer to leave the dry signal in and just get that doubling effect. Even going up, you know, going sharp with it, it's kind of cool too, especially for leads. You kind of got to be careful with that wet signal though. Again, I prefer the detune. Yeah, pretty cool. So anyway, those are 2 pedals that I don't think suck at all. I think they are nice, affordable pedals that you can get on Amazon. We're coming up on Amazon Prime week. Hopefully you guys can, you know, check these out, check out more of the line of these pedals, And, you know, leave a comment below. Tell me what you think of these kind of affordable kind of mini pedals that seem to have a lot of functionality. They do feature much more generic kind of components, and they are kind of limited to very standard sort of effects types. But for what they are, I think they're a good deal. So check them out, leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys later.